And good morning from the Meeting House. I'm your host, Dr. Dwight A. Moody, with what I hope is a good, hopeful word in these turbulent times in which we live. I turn my attention first overseas, where the war in Ukraine, the war in Gaza, neither one of these seem to be reaching a resolution. Our leaders and other world leaders are not able to bring peace to either one of these countries. We look around the country, our own country, and we notice all the weather-related storms. Our minds and hearts are still broken for the people of Kerr County, Texas. 129 lost, the last number I heard, with more than 160 still missing. And the evening news, the morning news, continues to bring us terrible news about the weather, hurricane storms, floods, all over the country. And then, of course, we're dealing with this political turmoil in our country, where the focus of this government is on shutting down long-standing valuable services to American residents, both citizens and non-citizens, and shifting that energy and that money to building prisons and cages and concentration camps. And the irony is that they are arresting people who are tax-paying working people and putting them in these prisons, losing that tax income for the government, and then charging us, tax-paying people, to care for these people, not only in the United States, like in the famous alligator Alcatraz down in Florida, but shipping them all over the world where we're having to pay for it. This does not seem to be, first of all, a decent fiscal policy, and it certainly does not seem to be a decent political philosophy, because gradually the American people are moving more and more and more against what's happening. Let's think about what's happening. When the political campaign was underway last year, the promise was that the government, if elected, would remove criminal, undocumented people. Well, we were all for that. You got undocumented people that are committing crimes or that came into the country as crimes. Yes, we support taking them out with due process. But what has happened is not that, in spite of what the government is telling us. They have started taking out undocumented people who are not criminals, who are hardworking family people, even ministers and professors and students, undocumented people. These are the people they're rounding up. Not only that, they've started taking out documented people, people with visas, people with work cards, green cards, people who are here to help our economy and to help our culture. And then they started stripping the documented status of people and surprising them at the border as they travel home, as they come back into the country, taking family people with their children and surprising them. We're taking your documents away. We're putting you on a plane and shipping you to Louisiana and then to El Salvador. And now you know what they're talking about? They're talking about taking the citizenship away from American citizens. All of this moving in a direction that none of us like, that I do not like, that you do not like, that is illegal and unconstitutional and outside the parameters of the presidential office. The question is whether there's going to be anybody in Congress or anybody in the Supreme Court that will hold this president and his associates accountable for this. So in the midst of this political, cultural, weather-related drama that we are enduring, Several weeks ago, for months now, I've been saying here are 5 things we all need to do. We need to march, and I don't know when the next march in your area is. Make a sign, become a marcher, boycott something when it's called. Eventually, there's going to be a general strike. Prepare yourself for that. Vote every time you get an opportunity, and every day pray for our country. Pray for the immigrants. Pray for the undocumented people. Pray for these ICE authorities. These ICE employees are being asked to do more than they want to do. They do not like apprehending, tax-paying, law-abiding people in the United States and treating them like criminals and putting them in cages. They do not like it. And we need to support them. But aside from that, last week I think it was, I said, no, we need to do something to maintain our mental health. It's very easy to get disturbed by all this and to be upset and anxious and even angry about it. And I suggested that we do these 5 things. Take a walk in the woods, which my family and I did last week. Spend a morning at the market. I was out of town this week, but my wife went to the market yesterday and bought all sorts of vegetables. Take a day and spend it at your local festival. There's a local festival in your area every single weekend from now through the end of the fall. Find a concert to go to. I am planning to go to a concert in Durham, North Carolina this coming week to see a Broadway play. You can find a concert to go to. And number 5, to find a date at a ball game. Now, this past week, as many of you know, my son Alan and his nephew, my grandson Sam, we got in the car and went to St. Louis. And we did things you can do. We had a terrific time in St. Louis, and I want to show you some of the things that we did. Let me make sure I get these in order. We spent a day, the better part of a day, on the Cahokia Indian Mounds. And here's a picture, I think, of me with way in the background, the St. Louis skyline with the arch. We had a beautiful day there. I had never been there, even though I used to live in St. Louis. We had a wonderful day at that park. Then we went over to the Gateway Arch National Park. I have been there even just after it opened. But here's my son and my grandson at the park entrance. We had a great time in the museum there, riding up the arch again. I've done it before. Then we took a cruise on the river. Here is the captain of our ship, the Tom Sawyer. And we went up, it was an hour and a half. He explained all the bridges and everything that was going on around the river. It was quite pleasant. Then we took a cheer in the ballpark. We went to the beautiful, beautiful Busch stadiums there in St. Louis. I've been a number of times, having gone to high school in St. Louis. But we had it was a beautiful night. There was a nice crowd. St. Louis ended up losing the ball game, but it was a wonderful diversion from lots of things in life, and we just enjoyed it. I think all 3 of us considered the ballpark the highlight of our trip. Now I'm going to show you a video. We spent the better part of the day at the famous St. Louis Zoo. It's the kind of thing that can divert your attention. There's so much interesting to see there. We got through about half of the zoo before the whole place was overrun with campers from all over, everywhere. You know, you'd come up on 15 or 20 or 25 kids in a pink t-shirt or a green t-shirt or a group in a yellow t-shirt. These were campers who were spending part of their camp day at the famous St. Louis Zoo. We saw lots, but I liked this carousel, and I made a video. Let's take a break. I'll be back in just a minute with our red letter lesson.
I'm going to be reading the parable of the Good Samaritan. My name is Samuel Curson, and this is my grandfather here. Luke chapter 10, verses 25 to 37. The Good Samaritan. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "Well, what is written in the law?" Jesus replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came by the man, he passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged all his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey and brought him to an inn and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expenses you may have." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell in the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." Now, I really like this story. It's a real famous story. One thing I wanted to learn about the story when I first read it was who even is a Samaritan. I had known that they were a marginalized group, but I didn't know the historical background. So when the Babylonians conquered Israel, they took all of the rich and wealthy and educated Jews, the aristocracy and the priestly class, and they carried them away to Babylon. But they left the hill people, the country people. And Jerusalem was the biggest city in the hill country of the south, and Samaria, the biggest city in the north. So when these exiled Jews eventually started to trickle in and return, they found Samaritans doing the things that they used to do. And this built a great resentment for the Samaritans over the years. What do you think the significance of Jesus using a Samaritan in this story is?
Well, Sam, the Samaritans, it seems to me, were, as you said, a marginalized group that were disenfranchised from opportunity and prosperity. The Jewish people looked down on them as kind of half-breeds. They didn't have the pure lineage that the true Jews had. And in this way, they represent that group in any culture that is disenfranchised, that is disregarded, that is pushed to the margins. And one of the ways that this story speaks to us today is that, we in America, there are lots of groups that fall into this Samaritan category. We've treated the indigenous residents this way, what we call the Indians. We've treated them this way. We've treated the African Americans who were brought over to be slaves. We've treated them that way, marginalized them, looked down upon them, and all of that sort of thing. And then we have treated, now some people are treating the immigrants this way, the undocumented and documented immigrants, treating them as second-class people, that they don't belong in the United States, that they're not worthy of citizenship, that they need to be pushed to the margins. And that's why this particular story speaks in a new voice to us today, and why I wanted to read it for our red letter lesson today. But as we were studying this text, something occurred to me and jumped out at me that I had never seen. Let me ask it to you in the form of a question. Who was it that Jesus ignored in this story?
It was the robbers. Rather than wanting to punish the robbers, he saw mercy, the mercy the Samaritan had on the man, rather than the Samaritan going out and arresting these robbers. The Samaritan went and had mercy on the poor man.
This is very interesting because in our culture, and maybe many cultures, there's such an emphasis on catching the thugs and punishing the thugs. There's a big emphasis on this, even as I have already said in this Sunday in the House, that the government wants to build more prisons. But it's interesting that Jesus was not interested in that. He did not bring any attention to the thugs. He didn't command people to go catch those thugs and put them in jail. It's very interesting how he shifts the focus from who did this crime to who brought mercy to the person who was beaten and left in the ditch. These are the reasons why this text, which you read and which we've talked about, I think, is such a powerful commentary on the situation we are in right now. How are we to respond to a marginalized group in our own culture today? And one of the things that has happened this week that gives us a modern parable on this is that the sheriff of Kerr County, Texas, where they had all of the flooding, he has a long and strong history against the immigrants. He has been very stern to keep the immigrants out of the United States and to arrest them and take them back. But something happened this week and last week that's changed his mind. His own family was caught in the flood. I think it was one of his children and two of his grandchildren caught in the flood. And lo and behold, the people who rescued his children and his grandchildren was a group of Mexican immigrants and rescue people who came over, crossed the Rio Grande of their own accord, not sent by the government, but came over and participated in the rescue of people along the Guadalupe River. And among the people they rescued was the family of the sheriff of Kerr County, Texas. This has changed the attitude of this sheriff. He's already announced that he's going to help this family and their people to get green cards, to be safe in the United States, and to stay here. And what this means is he has discovered, in dealing with immigrant people from Mexico, he has discovered what people all over our country have discovered, that The immigrants are hardworking, loyal, faithful, decent people who deserve green cards, who deserve citizenship. And what we need in the United States is not more jails to incarcerate immigrant people. We need a quicker, safer, surer way for them to become citizens in the United States and to be safe and secure in their own body and in their own possessions. So we have here, Sam, it's almost like an ancient parable and a modern parable teaching us the same thing, that mercy across ethnic and cultural lines, mercy to people who need it, is the quality that Jesus had, that Jesus encouraged, and that we as Christian believers need to incorporate into the way we treat our Mexican and Latino neighbors. That's our red letter lesson for the day, and I'll be back in just a minute with more Sunday in the House. Well, we finally got to the merry-go-round, and we hope you enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed being at the zoo. If you get a chance to go to the famous St. Louis Zoo, please do that. It's a wonderful place and a world-famous place. We hope to go again soon. I want to tell you another story. You know, I have talked a lot today about the way the government is treating undocumented people and even documented people. I think this is wicked. It is unrighteous in the extreme, and it contradicts every single value that we have as Americans. I want to say that this current administration has brought confusion and chaos and cruelty to our public life like we haven't seen perhaps ever in the United States. This government is full of corruption and greed. We cannot believe anything they say to us. I do not believe anything the president says or any of his people who get up and say. And if you're listening to me, Mr. President Trump, I want to say I speak for millions of Americans who do not believe what you tell us. You make up stuff every time you get behind a camera. You try to cover up things. You need to be truthful. It is the first requirement of being a good leader, is to be truthful in what you say to the people. But here we are. What can we do? Week by week, I have talked to you about my convictions about what's wrong in these new policies, both international policies, national policies. What can we do? If you know of somebody or some group that has initiated a proper and a powerful response other than the marching, I wish you'd let me know. Write me, call me, post on Facebook or something. Tell us a story about who's doing it the way it ought to be done. Now, this past week, I heard about a group who's doing just that, and I want to give you another illustration of people who are doing it the right way. You know, one of the things that the ICE agents are doing in this new ICE age, we might call it, they are surprising people, undocumented people and documented people. They are surprising them when they go out to the market, to work, to even fulfill their obligations with the Immigration Service. There is a group in Nashville, Tennessee, that's taken on the responsibility of allowing these people to stay home and delivering to them the things that they need. Medical things, medicines, food things, their washing and cleaning. Whatever they need, this group in Nashville, Tennessee is delivering to their home, the homes of these undocumented immigrants. I think this is a wonderful, simple, powerful response of American people to the illegitimate and wicked behavior of ICE agents in the United States. These agents that wear masks because they're afraid to be identified. They come in armor and heavy weapons. They come without warrants. And what we need to do as Christian people, as American citizens, is find the people they're after before they get there. Encourage them to stay home. Bring them money, bring them food, bring them friendship, bring them the prayers of the American people. This is a practical and inspirational behavior or task or ministry that people in Nashville, Tennessee are doing to those living all around them that are being targeted by ICE agents. I want to commend the people of Nashville, Tennessee for what you're doing, just like I commend the sheriff of Kerr County, Texas, for being converted, for changing his mind, for changing his disposition, just like the Samaritan. And these people today are living out the parable of the Good Samaritan that Jesus told. And I've told these two stories so as to encourage all of us to find practical ways to stand for righteousness and compassion and truth and justice and do the right thing to people regardless of their immigration status. This has been my message week by week by week. I think this is week 28 since we started Sunday in the House. Many of you have been with me every single Sunday. I want to thank you for it. Many of you have helped promote this broadcast. You've shared it with your friends. You've encouraged your children to watch it. Some of you have sent in a donation to help us cover our expenses. I want to thank you for that. I think we just registered our 70th different donor. And our goal is 75. You could be number 71 by sending in a donation. The smallest donation we've had this year is $25. The largest donation we've had this year is $14,000. Somewhere in between $25,000 and $14,000, you can become a donor and a supporter and an encourager of what we're trying to do here in Sunday in the House. I want to ask you to pray for me in my ministry here as we pray for the leaders of our nation, as we pray for these ICE people. I keep looking for signs of rebellion in the ranks of the ICE people, pushing back against what they are being asked to do. What they are being asked to do is demeaning to their identity as a human person, and it is a denial of their identity as a Christian disciple of Jesus. You cannot be a disciple of Jesus and act like these ICE people are doing, treating these documented and undocumented people all around us. Every time I see a person of international origins in the United States, I say a prayer, a silent prayer, and I wonder, are these people in danger? Do they feel like they're in danger? As a matter of fact, when we were out to eat at a Mexican restaurant and a Mexican woman waited on us, I privately asked her, I said, do you feel in danger? I think she was caught off guard by it, but she gave me a big smile and thanked me for my concern. I have a concern for everybody I see in this regard, and I think you do too. Thank you for your partnership here with Sunday in the House. Send me a greeting, send me a question, send me a comment, send me a story of somebody doing something right today in the United States. My name is Dwight A. Moody. I'm here with my grandson Samuel Curson. This has been Sunday in the House, and I will see you next week.